Hey guys, I have an idea. Howdy y'all, and welcome to Mad Ramblings. This is a bit different than what you're used to from me, but I would like to take a moment to talk about something that I am very enthusiastic about. There are many wondrous things in the Battletech universe, and some of them, justifiably, get more love than others. One of the staples of the Inner Sphere that often gets overlooked for simply being ubiquitous deserves, I think, some love. And since I feel like it deserves a more personal touch, I've decided to do it myself. Now, some of you that know me already know what I'm going to say, and I'm here to talk about the Archer. In 2458, Earthworks Incorporated presented a prototype for a heavy fire support battle mech. It took them 9 years to complete it, but remember that you can't rush perfection. Plus, the Yutzes kept arguing about theoretical issues. Now, in all fairness, battle mechs were still a bit new to the field, and that made it complicated. There was no doctrine, there was no standard process. Eventually, the doctrine of sturdy enough to survive won out over the pipe dream of a weapons platform so sophisticated that it would never miss, in theory, because that's how that works. So, let us dive right in and talk about where the Archers started life. In 2474, the Archer ARC-2R went into full production, and it was fielded alongside heavy brawling mechs like the Banshee, a mech that I'll probably ramble about later. I'm absolutely going to ramble about it later. I like the Banshee. The Archer 2R was so popular that by the time the first Succession War started, there were more than 100,000 of them built. And no, that's not a typo. I checked. There were so many Archers made that you could dress them up and reenact some of William Shakespeare's plays, and no one would even wonder why you did such a thing.
A blast, poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio.
At least, no one bothered to question me. I'm not allowed at that Golden Corral anymore, though, so... Now, admittedly, the Archer was so common that everyone knew what it was capable of and figured that it could never surprise them. And to an extent, they were right. But, I promise we'll circle back to that. Some absolute mad lads named the Grey Death Legion managed to recover the Helm memory core. And one of my favorite effects of this were those that applied, obviously given the video, to the Archer. You see, by the time the wackos from the very, very deep periphery showed up and started messing up people's lawns, the Archer was being produced with some fun variants. Let's take a moment and just consider some of these variants over the centuries, briefly. Of course, the Archer 2R was still being produced bog standard on Vandenberg for the Taurian Concordat. After all, you can't really go wrong with something that works. It has 2 LRM-20s, 4 medium lasers, and exactly enough heat sinks to let the pilot cook himself alive. 2 of the medium lasers are facing backwards because light mechs deserve a face full of surprise too. The Draconis Combine bought the ARC-2K, which reduced the LRM-20s to LRM-15s and exchanged all of the medium lasers for 2 large lasers and 2 extra heat sinks. This is probably the most sensible thing that Kurita has contributed to known space, aside from arguably good quality beer. The Lyrans, with the ARC-2S, decided that they wanted 2 LRM-15s, 4 medium lasers, and 2 SRM-4s, because what's more Steiner than more missiles? And yes, this one is my favorite. I'm biased. Don't worry about it. A Merc unit that you may have heard of called the Wolf Dragoons based their ARC-2W version on sort of the 2S by keeping the SRM-4s, good plan, and shoving the LRM-20s back in, and removing the 2 rear medium mounted lasers and adding 3 more tons of armor. This variant is better than the Steiner version, but don't say it too loudly or you'll wind up in a fist fight. So now that we've covered the models from before the Helm Memory Core, let's circle back around and take a peek at what came after the Helm Memory Core, because some of these are fun. The ARC-4M was built with an Indosteel chassis to save weight, and they put that weight savings to very good use. The 10 stock heatsinks were swapped with the double of variants, so the pilots no longer came home smelling like bacon, which is a bonus. Then they changed the stock LRM-20s for models that had Artemis 4 fire control for better grouping, and added case so those pesky critical hits won't reduce your shiny new mech to, a smoking crater, which happens a lot in the Innersphere. Of course, not to leave well enough alone, the ARC-4M was polished further to the ARC-4M2 because someone wanted to remove all the medium lasers for 2 ER large lasers. I'm starting to see a pattern here. Are you? Now we get to the ARC-5CS, which was introduced at the Battle of Tukiad by the phone company. And when they pulled the curtain off of it, they surprised the heck out of the clans with 4 LRM-15s with Artemis 4 fire control and 6 tons of ammo.
Yo, I just work here, man, and I don't even need this job no more.
With 2 medium lasers in the arms for emergency disco dancing.
Ooh, you better believe that's a pattern.
Consider at your own risk the concept of 48 reloads being fired downfield by a pilot that's in a hurry to run back for more ammo and eat a hot dog on the way back to the front line.
Aw man, I dropped my hot dog.
The 5CS has been on my Christmas list for years now. Still nothing. One of these days. One of these days. After that, there's so many variants that I would spend the rest of the week trying to sort through them all, and I don't really want to bog you down with that. Because now I want to propose to you why I believe that the Archer is a staple mech that has one of the longest continuous production runs in history. Not only is it decently armored and capable of standing back and keeping its allies alive, this thing is so well built that it even kept Alexander Carlisle alive, despite his best efforts. He was learning, mostly the hard way. But, thankfully, he had some great officers and a great unit to help him learn. I'll admit that it got better through the novels, begrudgingly. Far better examples of Archer pilots are more than abundant in lore. Mercenary leader James Wolfe of the Wolf's Dragoons could have piloted anything he wanted from throughout the Inner Sphere, but his personal command mech was an Archer. Morgan Finn Kell of the Kellhounds Mercenary Company piloted an Archer. I personally think that Morgan Kell was both a very competent mech warrior and a bit of a loony. I won't give you any spoilers, but if you read the novels, you might facepalm a little, which is fair. Now, yes, your catapult is a perfectly fine fire support mech. That is completely true. They weren't made in the extreme numbers, and yet they managed to be kept on the field for generations after their builders were long gone. That's 1 point for the catapult. Unless you put Marauder arms on it, then people start yelling at me again. Don't do that. Do that, it's funny. The longbow is a great machine. It even has a cool radar on top, and it's got a lot of stomp. It's a really cool mech. I like the longbow. The Stalker, of course, is a great fire support mech with some interesting variants, and I should probably put that on my to-do list. The Doom Blimp deserves a bit of love too. But consider, if you will, that the Archer has arms. The Archer can not only help with clearing rubble, rescue operations, and being, useful in a pinch, but the Archer is the only fire support mech listed that you can pilot that will not only throw dozens of missiles at people you want off your lawn, but it is the only one that can do it while making rude hand gestures at the same time. I dare you to tell me that no mercenary has ever made it do that. The Archer can uproot a small tree and play baseball with those pesky light mechs. That's right, what we need now is a picture of an Archer with his baseball hat and a bat. Now, let's swap that for a hat and a flat cap, because it's stylish. Now, let's swap the bat for a shiv. Don't judge me. That's hilarious. So, in closing, I propose that the next time you see an archer, please consider two things. 1. Consider giving it an outrageous periphery-inspired paint job. Go nuts. And reenacting some of Shakespeare's plays with it while wearing a giant flat cap. You cannot unhear that, and I apologize for nothing. This has been a mad ramble by Mad Ducks, and I'll see you out at Bubba J's Mechoplex over on Lenny Smith Boulevard, just past the Waffle House. Just look for the urban mech with the gold rims, just like a giant hot dog. You can't miss it. Howdy y'all, it's Mad Ducks here. I just want to give a big thank you to my friends in Task Force Melted Crayon for helping make this a reality. Also further proof that I should not be allowed to name these projects. DragonAxe has been helping me prod at this idea since the beginning, so go check his channel out. He has an entire realm of fiction, and that's really cool. Stormsong did the video editing, and if you'd like what we've done here, you can actually hire him for C-bills. There will be a link below. Lictor and Lady Red, your art has absolutely blown me away, and I cannot wait to see what you create next. It's astounding. And lastly, if you'd like to help us support Operation Melted Crayon so that we can pay for more of these episodes and help to create them, there will be a link in the description below where you can toss us a couple of C-bills. That would be greatly appreciated. And now, I would like to call on you, the audience, to help me with a prank. I started doing the Inner Sphere News Network, and then 6 months later, a man that did not even know I existed just started doing the news of the Inner Sphere. And that coincidence is just too funny to ignore. So here's where I need you. If you can spare a moment, I'd ask you to go check his channel out, take a look at some of the videos, and leave Quack in the comment. Just the word Quack. Nothing else, no context. Let's see if we can confuse him and get a good laugh out of it.
Yo, I just work here, man, and I don't even need this job no more.